she's like, oh, would you be interested in doing some nudes for me? I'm like, well, look,
flattered.
She's like, we could do them here in the gallery. And I was like, oh, look, I don't really know. We got signed with Universal Motown. All of a sudden that rolled into then the show, and then all this kind of stuff happened. And it was like, before you know it, we're on the road, we're playing with people like Jack Johnson, we're playing Michael Franti, we're playing all these kind of really cool artists and doing all this stuff. And yeah, I don't know if you can attribute it all to the name change, but
yeah,
it did. Things started happening. I don't know, it's weird. I moved to New York with the ex-girlfriend, and then we obviously broke up, and that was a very public thing, and it was kind of all over the press. It was just, that was a tough period for me.
Today's guest is someone who's lived many lives. Musician, model, reality TV star, and now someone that's a force in the fine art industry.
You might recognize him from the hills or the city, but these days, Jay Lyon is known for something a little different. Curating incredible art collections and working behind the scenes with collectors and creatives in the art world.
From surf rock stages to New York galleries, his story is anything but typical. And today we get to hear the version that doesn't make the headlines.
Jay Lyon, welcome to the show.
Well, welcome to No Business Being a Castano.
Thank you. This is my first time doing a podcast.
We're popping your podcast cherry.
It's the podcast cherry pop.
Yeah.
Is there a reason?
Well, it's not. Well, we're starting now. Yeah.
Is there a reason why you've never decided to do any?
Not really. I just think maybe my story isn't interesting enough for anyone to really.
We find it very interesting.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, totally.
Well, we haven't even talked about it yet. So
no.
You might change your mind by the end of it.
Let's start. I want to start. Obviously, you were known as Brent before, and obviously you transitioned. You changed your name, and I think for me, when I look at that, I feel like I want to know a little bit deeper on like what was the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, was that like a rebrand or a rebirth?
I love how you just jumped straight into like the difficult questions.
Oh, that's what we're about. We're about
because we want to know the real you. What, that's what obviously everyone wants to know. And
okay, so the name change thing. I think growing up. My father's last name is it's kind of difficult to say, right? It's pronounced Tutan.
Okay.
But as it's spelled Tuhtan, it's kind of just it can be Tutan to it's not very memorable, I suppose.
Where's that from? Like origin wise?
His father was from the border of Italy and Croatia.
Oh, nice.
So a place called Trieste.
Okay.
And before the war, Trieste was part of Croatia, and then during the war the Italians took Trieste and it became part of Italy, and so he then became part of Italy, and then they escaped the war and came to Australia, and he married a Sicilian woman, so they're Italian, Yugoslavian, and I suppose just growing up it just never really sat well with me. I never really liked the name Brent either. I always felt it hard to like say the name as well. It's like Trent, Brent, and I got, to be honest with you, like I got bullied and picked on a little bit at school for my name as well. So growing up, there was just kind of always this thing, and it wasn't until I was 23. And, I'd been living overseas for probably 5 or 6 years. I'd been kind of in the public eye. Things were going well for me in terms of the modeling career. And it was just for me, it just always felt like a sticking point. I just never felt like a Brent, ever, right? And so my mum, who's as Australian as they come, her family name's Lyon. And my middle name was Jay. So it made sense it had a better ring to it. But that's not actually how I transitioned my name. So the actual story is when I was living overseas, I was very good friends with a big model at the time. Her name's Agnes Dean. Now, Agnes Dean was named Agnes Hollins, okay? And she was modeling in Paris. She was doing okay or whatever, but, she was from London. She went and saw this guy in England called Lawrence Page. Now, this guy was like a name analysis guy. So basically he had this technique or, thing that he did, basically with letters and numerology, and he would analyze your name and basically write this full description of like your life and what you were kind of meant to do, all based off your name. I mean, I was fascinated by it. She was kind of telling us the story before, like when she just first did it. And I'm like, okay, well, that sounds kind of interesting. So he got her to change her name from Agnes, Agnes, to Aggyness, and from Hollins to Dean, Deyn. So he completely changed her name. And we were all like, oh, that's a bit weird. No freaking word of a lie. This girl, within a year, was on the cover of Time magazine.
Wow.
As one of the biggest models in the world. And she still continues to be a massive model. Like, if you look her up, Agnes Dean, you'll see she's done freaking everything.
Yeah, wow.
And so I was intrigued by this stage. Like, this is a year in. She's just done Time magazine. We're living in New York. And I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to call this guy up. So, at the time, me, my girlfriend, Jessica Hart, my buddy who was in the band, Potsy, who was, he was with Jess. We all went and got our name analysed by this guy. And he's like, if you stay as Brent, you're going to be, you're going to have bad luck in relationships. You're going to have all this shit. And like, I just bought into it because I'd seen Agnes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's like, I was like, I don't want it to be just like, he was like coming up with names like Zane and I'm like, man,
I want to know what was.
I'm like Brent to Zane. I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do with that? So anyway, I just basically went through it with him and I said, look, I would love to be able to keep my mum's last name or something. So he advised me to drop the S instead of Lyons. It became Lyon, and then to take my middle name Jay.
Yeah.
Jay, and then he recommended that you have these initials in the middle of your name rather than a middle name, the letter C, the letter G, and the letter N. Now, in his system, right, the letter C is for like health, the letter G is for like success, and the letter N is for like love or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really remember the whole context. But anyway, look, that was a long story.
Wow, man, that's
that's
how
really cool.
And I changed it.
Yeah.
And so he even told like Miranda to change a bit of her name, but she's decided not to. I think she's done pretty well with it. I don't think it really matters for her.
Yeah.
But what was really funny is that after I changed the name, because, I was doing music at this time, and I've just always, at that stage, all I wanted to do was music. It was like, anything I could do just to make my career be music. And, so I went through this whole thing with him, and obviously, like, we put in a lot of freaking work. But the series of events that happened after the name change is just like, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like some shit happened, some bad stuff, but then the on-flow of it and like everything that happened after that was like, it's kind of a bit trippy.
That's so interesting.
Like what sort of things happened?
Yeah, like what's some bad
bad things or good things?
Give us one bad thing and one good thing.
Well, bad thing was, obviously I moved to New York with the ex-girlfriend, and then we obviously broke up, and that was a very public thing, and it was kind of all over the press, and then her on flow of who she went with after that, and it was just, that was a tough period for me, but we got signed with Universal Motown. All of a sudden that rolled into then the show, and then all this kind of stuff happened, and it was like, before you know it, we're on the road, we're playing with people like Jack Johnson, we're playing with Michael Franti, we're playing with all these kind of really cool artists and doing all this stuff. And yeah, I don't know if you can attribute it all to the name change, but it did. Things started happening. I don't know, it's weird.
Would you go back in time and relive that if you had the chance?
I mean, who wouldn't go back and relive some things?
I'm just trying to think, because sometimes, I don't know, I experience stuff and I'm like, it was a great time, but I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah.
And I would have probably dealt with that situation, maybe that lifetime, maybe different.
Well, yeah, you have a different...
harder and stronger.
Well, you have a different perspective, right?
Yeah.
You grow, and it's a sign of growing, right? If you look at a situation, you're like, oh, I would have done that differently, of course.
Yeah, you start to look at it, I suppose, you're able to look at it objectively. You don't get triggered by certain things, and you're not like, emotional about stuff. It's kind of just, you know, I look at my life, it's like, honestly, I feel like it's like 4 different lives. You know, it doesn't feel like one continuous life. It's like, you know, I've done many different things and it's been drastically different. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess like, you know, your creativity, like where does that, was it through your music? Obviously, you know, you got your amazing art studio that we're in here.
Which is what we're in
here
right now.
which
It
is
is
sensational.
stunning.
Yeah.
Absolutely
I got
stunning.
this little guy looking at me the whole time. And
It's a mold of my dog.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I got him sculpted. No, I wish.
Does he have a name though?
that's the thing.
Well, my Frenchie's called Teddy, so we'll call him.
Teddy.
We'll call him Freddie.
You could just
Freddie.
make up whatever and someone's going to believe.
Yeah.
Have you ever made something up and then people just go on with it and just been like,
100%.
tell us something. You could have sold me that just then and be like, oh, that's, you know.
Exactly. Oh man, 100%. You know, you always got to read the room and assess the person you're selling to, and then, you know, pick things that they align with and they value, and sell them on that. That's it.
What about, let's talk about, I guess, you know, your reality, you know, TV star life. I would say, you know, you talked about being a tough time as well, being in the public eye. And obviously for myself, I know how difficult that can be. And, you know, I know the places that I went and how dark that time was. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? And like, you know, so you broke up and then just kind of just went downhill from there, or?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously, that was probably my first really true love, and I didn't really know how to deal with the publicness of it, I suppose. And the way kind of I found out about it, you know, I was away with my dad in Aspen, and like, you know, I was getting phone calls like, oh, did you see the news article or whatever? And, you know, it's a kind of hard way to hear about it, and then to have to just deal with that whole thing. And, you know, we were living together, so, you know, you're in another country, and you know, it was tough. And I suppose that being very public, that side of it, and then not only that, you know, seeing that person in the press constantly and being reminded and all that kind of stuff, it wears you down.
Yeah.
It just wears you down. But, you know, I suppose that builds resilience, and you look back at it now and you're like, you know, things had to happen the way they did for us to be where we are. So it's just,
So true.
Yeah, I guess we could relate on that for sure. Like, things were always coming out about both of us, and we both had to sort of, you know, well, I remember we were still in that like rocky emotional stage. So a lot of things would trigger both of our emotions, very much so.
How did you guys like navigate that to start with?
There'd be a lot of text back and forth.
A lot of text, yeah.
a lot of arguing.
A lot
of silent treatment, not talking to each other for a while. But I think we always knew that we wanted to stay in each other's lives. So it's like, okay, this is the new norm. We got to make this work for ourselves, but also everyone around us.
How does it work with like respective partners? Do they get funny about it?
Yeah, I think I had a few. So when I broke up with her, I was obviously going on dates and stuff like that. And then anyone that I found that an issue, I would actually just get rid of them, you know. And
oh, really? No way.
Just as simple as that, you know.
Really?
Cheeky block, see you later.
All right.
But, savage. Yeah.
No, well, so that means like you obviously
she's part of my life.
Exactly.
And like, you know, we shared 17 years together.
That's a long time.
It's like, you know, she's known me from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like,
Do you ever think about like what it would be like to have like a little you two running around?
Yeah, it's never like towards the end of our relationship, we thought that was going to save our kind of we talked about it, and that like thinking about it now, I think that would have been a terrible idea.
Terrible, absolutely.
So now you're both like, we dodged a bullet.
We
dodged,
big
time.
You know, so I feel like our relationship now is what we had known it to be like the last 4 years.
Yes.
Like, we just couldn't hack that. Like we had to break up and not be together every single day, every second of the day.
And I think we grieved the loss of our relationship prior to it actually happening because we knew it was gone.
So you were already kind of detaching from each other as you were going.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's.
But obviously, it's a different
breakups are just tough, man.
They
I
are.
mean, like,
but it's
when
good
are
to
they
know
ever?
that you've got emotion, and you know what I mean. Like
No, well, I'm not a
sometimes
robot.
I feel like other people don't have it. No,
No, we're highly emotional and highly sensitive people.
I'm kidding. Tell us, what's in terms of art world? What's the most expensive piece you've sold?
Well, the most expensive piece I've sold, like in an individual sales, probably like, $250,000. But in terms of like a wholesale together, probably about 1.6, I think is my
Wow.
biggest one. But that was kind of like, a lot of pieces. It was more of a commercial deal as well. But, it's... The process doesn't change whether you're selling a piece worth 10 grand or a piece worth 100 grand. The process is the same. It's just a bigger number. Right?
Yeah.
And sometimes just because I'm selling a piece that's worth more money doesn't mean I'm making more money. Do you know? It also comes down to, what is the piece? Is it a consigned piece from a collector? Is it something, am I working with the studio directly and I'm on a good deal with them or whatever? So it just depends.
Yeah. So you went from musician, model, reality TV, and then art. What, like, you say that's like 4 lives in one, right?
That's a
so
lot.
how did you go from that to that to that? Or did you just fall into
kind
it?
of fell in,
No. So it's like the art thing I definitely fell into.
Okay.
In a way, I suppose. I've always been in art in one way or another, whether it be music, obviously I understand TV. So I suppose the way it kind of transitioned, I was living in America for 9-10 years, and we went on this tour, and we were 3 months out on the road, and we were down in New Mexico or something, on the way to Louisiana. And I remember we played this show, and we finished at like 9 o'clock at night, and we'd packed down, and we were like, shit, tomorrow we're playing a show and it's 12 and a half hours away drive. So we're like, we've really got to just drive into the night and we'll figure out a place on the way. So we pack up our shit and we probably get on the road at 10 o'clock. We drive for 6 hours. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. We see this little shithole motel on the side of the road. And we're like, fuck it, let's stay there, man. We got to sleep. So we pull over, and back in the day, there's 4 of us, and when we stopped at these hotels, we weren't doing it luxe by any means. We're in a fucking van, like 4 of us, equipment like squeezing your head against the window. So we stopped at this place, and when the system was, you'd get the 2 double beds, and then you'd get the extra pillows, and you'd put the pillows down the middle, and that would form the brocade. You stay on your side of the brocade, I stay on my side.
Can't break that.
Can't break that. It was funny because our bass player, he always used to want to share the bed with the drummer, because the drummer was like 5'8", you know what I mean? He's little, so he had more of the bed. Anyway, we had the brocade. We're in the middle of butt fuck nowhere, America, and we go to bed, get up in the morning, and, we all pack the car. And then Potsy, he starts scratching. It's like, he's like, this like crazy. And I'm like, man, what's going on? Turns out he's got bed bugs. He's been destroyed from neck all the way down to his freaking ass. And no one else got bitten.
Wow.
No one else, right? So he's there scratching away. Next thing, he gets a text message, right? We haven't even got to breakfast yet. He gets a text message from Jess Hart. Okay. Basically texts him saying, I'm packing up my shit and I'm leaving you.
Oh,
Oh, no.
6 or 7 years they've been together.
Wow.
And, obviously I love Jess as well. She's a great chick, and, we're all friends. Everyone's friends now. But at the time, it was like really brutal. Guys just been destroyed by bed bugs. We've been on the road for 3 months. Everyone hates each other by this stage. You just want to tell everyone to just fuck off. And then, then he gets this text message. So he's distraught. We finally get down to Louisiana. It's our last show. We play the show, and I flew down to Mexico to go see my dad. He flew back to New York to basically have to pick up the pieces of his life and, deal with this whole breakup thing. So I go back to Mexico, and then we basically had this show booked in Australia with Vodafone, and it was with us and the Bag Raiders. Right? So I come back to Australia, and preparing, whatever else. And then next thing you know, I get a message from Posse like, bro, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore.
Wow.
I don't want to be in the band anymore. I'm done. And I was like, at this stage, I was kind of like over it as well. It's just like, it takes its toll when you're just out on the road like that with the same people. It's just, it just does. And so I had to like makeshift this band together, and I played this show. It was fucking terrible. It was horrific, basically, but I still did it. And after that, we just stopped. So then I was lost for like a couple of years. I was kind of floating about. I did I got this kind of contract with Jag Jeans with Ruby Rose when Ruby Rose did it. So I had that for like a year, and I just basically went into hermit mode and played golf. And that was it. I was like determined to become a professional golfer, and
turned out well.
Turned out really well. Yeah. Then I got into law. I was like doing paralegal, and then I got into production. So that's kind of when I really started to be able to work with artists, and I started to get a taste of, film and photography in terms of like being on the other side of the camera and creating it. And what I realized is like I have a really good eye for that stuff, and I know, I know what looks great, and so, or I think I do anyway. So when we started doing this production stuff, it really started to just unfold, and we were doing luxury brands, big like luxury residential towers, all the kind of books and videos and films and stuff like that, Hamilton Island, all this kind of stuff. And it wasn't until COVID hit that just stopped production. So that shut us down, and I had to pivot. And it just so happened that I got this opportunity to kind of work in this gallery and take over that. And yeah, I ran that gallery for about 5 years, and I think when I first started in the business, it was turning over maybe $100,000 a year. It was just right off five ways. By the time I left that business in 2022, it was turning over 6 million, and we had 5 galleries. So, I found a niche, and I found something that just basically I love. And I love the art world because it's a bit like the Wild West. There's no real rules. You kind of make it up as you go, and people will pay what they want to pay for something if they love it,
Yeah.
Yes, you've got a retail value. Yes, you've got a market value. But if someone loves something enough and they can't get it anywhere else, they will pay, whatever they want.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think obviously speaking to you, I can tell, you're such a, you got such a good aura, man, that I feel like whatever you tell me to buy, I'll buy it,
Yeah.
And I can tell why I went from, 100 to 6 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, no, it's look, it's I've made shit tons of mistakes doing this whole thing. And, I've trusted people in this business, and, you get fucked over, all that kind of stuff that happens in business, but you learn to navigate it. And now, I think right now, finally, I'm really starting to embrace what I do, and I'm excited about it. There's so much you can do with this space. We do so many different things. There's collaborations. There's stuff we can do on endless levels with art, and I love it.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that you'd change? Anything? If you could change one thing in this place, or what would you change?
Well, it's always changing, right?
True. I guess different.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Every 2 weeks it changes.
I like to rotate it. It seems like every time I'm moving stuff around, people walk in and want to see what's kind of going on. So I like to rotate it a bit. But next we've got this Swiss artist coming out from the next Friday till the 18th of July. He basically takes photos of Batman in common places, and I love his work. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, we open from the public on the 5th of July. So
amazing.
I remember we spoke about that briefly.
Yeah,
about your idea. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, but
we're still trying to get through
it.
They shut us down.
Did they again, mate?
Yeah, Brock came back and was like, "Look, transport of New South Wales is not having it."
We need to make this happen. Seriously, I think your idea is great, and just to whisper in your ear what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, we can talk about it. I think Go.
No. Well, I think when someone has such a great idea, I don't know. I feel like you should, for me as a, such a passionate person, I would be like, I would encourage that idea to get delivered rather than blocking it, because it's such a work of art that would be sensational to see that image on that location.
Yeah, I think this, the concept of, so basically it's a concept, the concept's called In the Name of Art. And it's basically showing people, what these world-renowned photographers and artists go through to get the perfect shot. And like the process, it's, in a day and age where everything's digital, everything's kind of just fast and instant access, to see someone actually like get through all the red tape and get through all the permissions and all this kind of stuff and fight through all the elements, people I think don't understand, even with, when doing a production or something like that, everything is working against you. From the moment you start, it's like the whole thing's just working against you. For things to just go smoothly and like one after, it just never happens, right? You got weather, you got permits, you got all these kind of things that just, so to get it right and to actually make it happen and to get the shot is like, it's a miracle in itself. And then to see that whole process and for people to be educated on that process and then to see the final product and then be able to use that art and be able to give back to charity in that way. I mean, it's pretty much like the dream scenario, right? It's like you get to produce these incredible things and you get to go out and do some stuff that people probably wouldn't do or wouldn't think to do. Then you get to show it and then you get to sell it and give back. And I think,
So I'm going to be the, what's it called? Yeah, the bad cop here. This is probably blasphemy.
Yeah.
But then what do you think about AI? Like, obviously you're saying there's like, you go out and you produce all these amazing shots and you're going through the weathers and you've got to get the right moment, capture that right moment at that right time. When AI can just, you type it in. And
it creates it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my take on it is with AI, one of the main things that's going to become super valuable is anything that's done by hand. So I think like paintings and, things that are, that take human creativity and like humans to make is going to become far highly valuable. I think to your point, like you hit the nail on the head in terms of photography, it makes it much harder for photographers because of AI, because people can create these scenes or whatever else. But I think that if people see what people will go through in the name of art to get that shot or to make that artwork or to create that image or that vision, I think, that's what people buy into. They buy into that story and that vision and that, and when they see it, it just becomes instantly more valuable. You see that, and, oh wow, like look at this, the kind of things they've gone through just to get that. So yeah.
No, it's true, yeah, because I remember you telling me about putting the car on the rooftop of the hotel.
No, yeah,
and I was like, imagine going through all that to put
You'd need a crane.
You know what I mean? But we're just talking about the stuff like you go for it just to get that shot. Like
correct.
That's a lot.
And like people be like, well, why?
Why?
Like, what the hell's the why would you? Why not?
99%
in the name of art.
In the name of art.
There you go.
Why not? And then you know what? There's going to be someone out there that wants that shot, and they'll spend a lot of money for it. And if I can then take that money and give it back to charity, then
I like that. I like that. That's my new line. That one, in the name of art.
In the name of art. You know, another episode we're thinking about doing is this photographer behind here, Nick Leary.
That's incredible.
I'll show you after.
Yeah.
He's got this video. He went basically, this whole series is, it's called Celebrate Australia. And he went up to the Northern Territory and he took John Ibrahim and Greg McGree up to the Northern Territory to basically chase brumbies and crocodiles with Matt Wright. So Matt Wright is the crocodile hunter, right? You've seen him, obviously, a bit of shit going on with him or whatever. But they went up to the Northern Territory and literally they were chasing brumbies and crocodiles for like 5 days. And some of the stories, man, Like,
I wanna hear
just
what-
insanity.
Give
I
us
don't
some
even
juice.
know. I don't know if I'm allowed to even say them.
Is that really? R-rated? R-rated? Or was
Well,
it?
mate, you might have Johnny calling
Nah,
you up.
mate,
Mate, what's that?
Yeah.
No,
But yeah, looking at that
Wow,
now,
that-
like
yeah,
that's
that's-
in motion. That
Yeah,
horse is
that's-
like
He's hanging out the side of a helicopter.
What?
He's hanging out the side of a
Really?
helicopter when he took that photo.
See what I mean? That it's all
Yeah.
in the name of art.
It's all in the
That's
name
it.
of art.
That is it.
And
So-
there's videos of like they're flying this high up the ground.
Wow.
Like next to a 6-meter crocodile, and the crocodile's snapping at
Wow.
the helicopter, and they're hanging out the freaking window. He's flying backwards. They do backflips in the freaking helicopter, man. And apparently, the story goes that one of the nights they were out on a dinghy, out on this, wherever, Billabong, whatever they're freaking called, and apparently it's just like a sea of eyes. It's just crocodiles everywhere. And Matt, John's in the boat and Nick's in the boat and Matt's in the boat. And apparently Matt just like starts to proceed to pull a crocodile into the boat.
Oh my, wow.
And
Yes.
white knuckle moment.
oh my goodness.
And, I mean, John's probably seen some pretty scary
Yeah,
shit
of
in his
course.
life,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
And he's probably seen some pretty gnarly stuff. But,
Wow.
what do you do when someone puts a crocodile, wild animal like that, just wants to eat you in the boat? Like this thing just grab you and just take you under.
Crazy.
See, in the name of art.
Exactly.
That's episode
That's it.
3.
The lens
Don't
we
tell
go
anyone
That's
too
it.
much.
Wow. That's,
Well, we
Jeez.
are in Potts Point. Do
Yeah.
you have your sights on anywhere else, like New York, Paris, Milan, like all those arty cities?
Definitely. Well, I mean, the good thing is, and as you look around, 95% of the artists I rep are global, international artists.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of Aussie artists, but mainly all international. So the reason why I've curated and I've picked artists to go for like that is because there's a global market for them. So, we can market to people in America, the UK, France, England, wherever. And we know that there's a market for the artists there. Whereas, emerging artists from Australia, there might not be really a market overseas. So for me, the next move where I would really like to go is Dubai, actually. Because it kind of sits me in the middle of America. It sits me in the middle of Europe, middle of Australia, Asia. You're kind of in the middle section of everything.
Yeah.
And obviously the tax benefits.
The tax benefits, yeah. You
Pretty-
want to talk about
pretty
that? No, we do not.
Yeah, that's so boring.
Well, that's obviously having, business at the forefront. How do you balance business and creativity? Because I feel like with us, in our business, you're like, on the floor in the creative space, whereas I'm the business mind. You're obviously both. So how do you sort of balance that?
Well, I mean, I obviously have a team as well, and like my assistants and and the gallery assistants as well, and so obviously you need a team. But for me, I always find a lot of creatives you find they're really good at the creative side of it. They suffer on the business side of it. But the artists that really smash it out of the park, one, they have an incredible concept that they own that concept. But two, they are able to. What was I going to say? Completely forgot my train of thought now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
right.
So what I was trying to say is that the really good artists, what they're able to do is understand the commerce side of it and the art side of it. And when they're good at both, those are the artists that just explode because they understand it. Like art is business as well. There's a big side of business to this game, and if you're not savvy about that side of it, you get screwed over. And a lot of artists you'll see, and a lot of artists will have horror stories and things where they've been screwed over, or people have stolen their art, or copyright issues, all these kind of things. And the great artists know how to navigate both sides of the landscape, the creative side and the commerce side. For me, I love the business side of art as well. The business side is so much fun. Like doing a deal, the negotiation, that side of things for me. Like I'm a sales guy at the end of the day. I love selling.
Yeah.
I do. I really do. I really enjoy it.
You've sold Jono
sold
many
me,
times
yeah.
today
I
already.
know.
So
I was just like, where is your checkbook, Jono? Breathe out. No.
Have you ever been sold a counterfeit like art or anything like
yes.
Yeah, like that's what I want to.
how big is that world as well? Because we watch Your Friends and Neighbours.
Yeah.
Have you watched that show?
Let me tell you, this is a great topic.
Let me tell
because
you, go deep in it. Let me tell you, the
Go
name
deep,
of art.
It is rife. It's really tough. One thing I would definitely say and advise to any people that are going out and dabbling in the secondary market. So secondary market is your auction market.
Right.
So anyone that's dabbling in that market, it's a must. You must just go with the reputable houses. Sotheby's, Christie's, Phillips, those are the guys. They vet everything. They check everything. They make sure the provenance is great. Yes, you pay more, but you pay more because you're getting genuine, authentic pieces. You're getting all the paperwork with it. You can trust that you're gonna get what you're paying for. I have so many stories, and I've been burnt myself many times, where you'll jump on some of these auction sites, Heritage Auctions, Llama, Brago, all these other ones, and you just don't know if they're vetting the products, and you don't know if they're checking thoroughly. And I'm telling you, I bought stuff and I've gone to get it framed, and it'd be like a beautiful piece, like by a well-known artist, hand signed, and I think, wow, what a great deal. I'm gonna bid on this one, and that's the thing. If the age-old saying, if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
If it smells like shit, it's probably shit.
Yeah.
It's true. It's just the truest words spoken. It's also, it comes down to like, you get what you pay for, right? People that always want a Ferrari on a Hyundai budget, it never works out for those people.
Yeah.
It's like you just pay the first time, you get the product, and then you don't have to do it again.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So that's my advice on that. And yes, I've been burnt a number of times.
Yeah.
But I've learnt my lesson now, so that won't happen.
That's
again.
good advice to anyone obviously wanting to buy art.
Yeah. Well, that's why you have the primary market, which is a gallery business. So, that's on us then to go out and make sure that what we're selling is authentic, to make sure that you're getting what paperwork, you're supposed to make sure that you're getting certificates or whatever authenticates the work, so that that you're getting what you pay for. And so, if there's a premium on that a little bit, sure, but I'd rather pay a premium and get what I pay for than try and get a deal. And
are you trying to sell me one now? It sounds like you're trying to sell me one now. It sounds like
you see how I pulled the bubble wrap? See how I pulled the bubble wrap off the boxing gloves?
Yes. We definitely want that one.
Put it right next to you. Just put it in your line of sight.
You are very good.
Have you ever gotten attached to a piece that you're like, I actually want to keep this for myself?
100%.
Yeah.
And if you go to my house, you'll see I've got so much art, and it's kind of like one of those things. Sometimes you get stuff in, and it's like one for me, one for you. It's like, I get attached to stuff all the time. I love it, but also, I think I love, I suppose, working with the artists so much that I get to a point where they might make me something special or do something that's kind of a little bit different just for me, and that stuff I love. You know what I mean? So I've got heaps of that stuff, and I'm fortunate when it comes to like having good art myself.
Yeah, cool.
Has there been any like interesting client ever or anything like come into that? Any interesting client, any strange requests or so? I don't know. Is there?
Yeah, actually.
You want to know.
We're in Potts Point.
Yeah, we're in Potts Point. I live in Potts Point, by the way.
What's that?
I live in Potts Point, by the way. Yeah,
where about? Which one?
I'm not saying on this one.
He'll tell you after.
What number?
I'll tell you after.
What's phone number?
I'll tell you after.
I have. I had this girl come in one time, and she was, obviously, we do have a lot of photography with women, and there's some stuff that's nudity and stuff like that. Like some of the artists, Helmut Newton, Ellen von Unwerth, it's quite sexy. And I had this girl come in, and she was, tattered from kind of
Head to toe.
the nose ring, full thing, nipples pierced. You could see straight through the shirt. And she was walking around for a while, and she's like, oh, do you shoot as well? And I'm like, I take some photos sometimes. Yeah, for sure. I rep a lot of different artists, but she's like, oh, would you be interested in doing some nudes for me? I'm like, well, look,
flattered.
She's like, we could do them here in the gallery, and I was like, oh, look, I don't really know, but then she proceeded to take out a phone and just showed me these nudes that, I was thinking maybe some tasteful nudes, but it was like aggressive nudes.
Wow. Okay.
And I was like, look, I don't think that it's really going to fly here on Macleay Street. But
thank you, but no thank you.
I didn't go for it.
Yeah, wow.
Many people would, I reckon, on that one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's go into.
Yeah, this is something
we do to wrap up our episode. High, low, Castano. So your high of the week, your low of the week, and a Castano is something random, like your nude encounter.
That would have been into that category for sure.
Yeah.
Or it could have been a high. One of the two.
Yeah, one of the two.
Okay.
I don't know how spicy your life is.
Okay, high of the week would be my birthday, because my birthday was on Saturday.
Happy birthday.
That's right. I messaged you happy birthday.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
You're in Melbourne.
I was.
Was there any spicy stories?
We went to Francois. It was pretty fun. No, it wasn't too spicy.
Okay.
We were so beaten up by the expo that I was just kind of. It was tame. I wish I had a fun, crazy story, but I don't.
What about the low?
The low of the week.
Well, the low would have to be probably just the drive back from Melbourne, and then I think we were about 30 seconds after like a major roadkill. Oh. And it was just like about 100 meters of just blood down the road and body parts of like an animal. And, it was pretty hectic.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a low.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. And what about
and your Castano? Something random.
Something random
that happened in the last week.
This
week. In the past week.
Man.
In the past week.
This week.
You've lost track of the time, mate.
I have. I really don't know what time it is, what day it is, where I'm at.
You look like a Barbie doll, by the way.
I do.
So you could literally...
I like the outfit, by the way.
Literally looks like a real-life Barbie doll this time.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Anyways.
I don't far out a random fact.
I know. That's the one I always get caught on. When we go around the table, we say it. I'm always like, I don't know. Like, I actually don't remember what I did this morning.
I always wish when you get asked these kind of questions that you just had that great answer right on the spot. I always get stumped on this one. And then you walk away and you go, fuck, that's what you said.
Yeah.
Well, okay, random thing is I'm here on this podcast with you guys, the first ever podcast.
First ever, which is
actually, you guys, it was surprisingly pretty chilled. I didn't need to be that nervous about it.
No, definitely not. We're chill, always.
Yeah, I think it's who you get, who does the interviewing, I reckon. I've been super nervous on some, and I'm like, well, I'm just not in the mood sometimes as well. That can kind of come across as well.
Well, I'm glad you're in the mood today.
Yeah.
It's Friday. Come on, Amy.
What's like, I suppose, have you ever had a podcast where it's just gone terrible?
For sure, yeah. It's been a shock. I remember when I went into...
Do you still show it anyway?
Oh,
remember,
yes.
I came in one day and I was like mute mode. I was like, I was
like,
a lot of stuff was happening outside of my life. And then
he was just not present.
And then I just wasn't present. Like if I was looking at you, I'd be thinking of what was happening in my life, and I wasn't even gauging what the person was saying. So I had to actually say, hey, look, I actually don't want to do the next podcast. And you did really well. But I've been in those situations. And I think you just got to take it on the chin and just be like, I'm only human and I go through dark days and shit days too. So,
And you bounce back.
And I bounce back, and it's Friday. And
Has anyone ever just walked off and said, fuck you?
No. I'll nick them.
No, you would not.
No, I would not.
But thank you,
Yeah.
Jay Lyon.
Thank you so much for having me.
I can't say your name without saying Jay Lyon.
I know.
It's
It
such
sounds,
it's a cool
You're going to tell me
name.
more about that. I think
Yeah, I want to know.
I like it when the French. I like it when the French say.
What how do they say this?
Jay Lyon. Jay Lyon.
Yeah.
See, that's
Ah, ouais, Jay Lyon. I'm like, yeah.
And I'm just here like Jay Lyon.
Yeah, Jay Lyon.
Well, thank you for
Thank you so
joining
much.
us.
Thanks, man. Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for popping my
Of
podcast
course.
cherry.